Thompson, and I'm the CEO of a company called ATEC. Now what I'm going to talk about is blockchain, of how blockchain can be used for governments, for social good, and to solve some of the world's biggest problems. I'm going to tell you a story of why I set ATEC up, and how ATEC was created by mistake. We're going to talk about some live projects on the ground. We're going to talk about some of the governments we're working with, and how we view blockchain solving these problems over the next 10 and 15 years. The reason why we call it ATEC, you can think of different industries. FinTech, RegTech, legal tech, but there's no industry for transparency. So every government, every aid organisation, every corporate wants transparency, where the money goes, what's the impact, how much money can actually go missing. So this figure here, $4.4 trillion goes missing every single year. That's because of fraud, corruption, and the lack of transparency. That's internationally, across different governments, different corporations, and individuals making donations. So we wanted to try and solve this problem. Could we leverage blockchain? Could we create a transparency engine, a transparency protocol, where using blockchain, we eliminate all this money going missing? So now organizations and governments have complete traceability. Now there's some issues involved with the technology, public chains, permission chains, scalability, and so on. And these are problems that we've been speaking with governments and organizations for the last 3 years. Does anybody know what this is? So this here are called United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 targets that 193 governments and countries around the world have signed up to. So these are going to be everywhere for the next 12 to 13 years. So these 17 targets, every government is being measured on between now and 2030. They're the new Millennium Goals, where they cover things from climate change, to digital identity, to financial inclusion. So we're looking at these problems that governments are going to spend trillions of dollars on to try and solve. We're saying, can we use blockchain technology to solve these massive, massive problems? It's estimated that $2.5 trillion is needed every year for the next 12 years to achieve some of these targets. And in each of these 17 targets, blockchain can be used in multiple different ways. So I'm going to explain how we're using blockchain to solve some of these problems. In particular, SDG target 16.9, which states everybody should have a legal identity, a digital ID, by 2030. Now, my background, I come from telco and I work in banking. I'm a techie. But we see this as a massive opportunity. So speaking with governments, we are building our solution and our platform for the last 3 years, depending on the business solutions. So we're building technology to solve these massive, massive global problems, which are trillion-dollar industries, which governments are going to spend the money on. So target 16.9 says everybody should have a legal identity. Now, if you're looking at blockchain, I'm sure you've come across people talk about digital IDs, legal IDs. A digital identity is only useful if it can be used to access different services. So very, very simply, everybody who has an iPhone has an Apple ID. But on top of the Apple IDs, Apple has 900 million users with 190 billion app downloads. Now the entry point for an Apple ID with an iPhone or an iPad can be a couple of $100. Now there's billions of people around the world that don't have an identity. So can the blockchain be used to give end users an identity on the blockchain where they can build a data credit profile based on transactions? So these are some of the problems that we're talking with governments with and we're trying to solve. Now how ATEC was born is completely by mistake. I'm going to show you now. So when we looked at ATEC, we wanted to solve these problems. So we said, let's create a company that can solve the world's biggest problems, digital identity. Okay, that's a massive problem. So 2.4 billion people lack a legal identity. Every government in every country has targets between now and 2030 to get illegal identity into everybody's hand. Now, if you give a person a digital identity, they can start receiving remittances, welfare, aid. They can manage their own data, and have land registry. So this is the potential for blockchain to get to scale. It's actually in end users' hands, and the biggest contributor here is going to be working with governments. This is how we see if blockchain is actually going to scale. It's for people who lack social and economic and financial inclusion. Now, how did I get into this? In 2009, I ran an event in the Sahara Desert called the Marathon des Sables. I raced over 151 miles in the Sahara Desert. It's absolutely horrible. I recommend you do not do it. But I raised a lot of money. I raised over $120,000, and I gave that money to a charity. So I thought, okay, great charity, here's the money, go fix some people's lives, improve people, help sort some people's lives out here. But one of my main donors came back to me 9 months later and said, Joseph, I want to know where the money's gone, I want transparency, and I want to know the impact. So when I went back to the organisation that I donated this money to, they said the money was being used for a different cause. I said, okay, where is the money gone? Oh, we can't show you, we don't know where it is, and so on. So to me, $122,000 went missing. It was robbed from me. So I had to go back to my donor and say, I don't know where your money's gone. I'm incredibly sorry. So I wanted to solve this problem, and that was in 2009. And then when I first came across Bitcoin in 2010 and really started to understand blockchain in 2011, I actually saw that it's not going to be Bitcoin for the developing world, it's going to be blockchain. The power of blockchain is going to potentially change hundreds of millions of people's lives going forward. And this is what we're building out now. So what I'm going to show you is a quick video. So here you're seeing the first delivery of international aid ever in December 2015 with the Red Cross distributing aid to Syrian refugees on the border of Lebanon and Syria. Simply, we gave out identities. The Red Cross had managed the identities of the end beneficiaries, and we loaded each identity with $20. Very, very simply. So it took me 3 days to get those plastic cards printed. We had 500 participants in the project, so this is December 2015. We're using blockchain. We don't know how it's going to work, but it was an attempt to use the blockchain for complete transparency on government delivery of services, in this case, international aid. Within the first 2 hours, I had 45 fake vouchers handed into the shopkeeper. Now what that meant, the donor and the Red Cross in Ireland could see every transaction happen in real time. So we were able to see every single cent of where that money went. So we knew, okay, if we look at international aid, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's an industry where taxpayers are paying tax to the government is delivering international aid. There's no transparency, there's no accountability, and there's no traceability here. So you've got the problem of fraud and corruption, but you also have the problem of all this data being lost. All these huge amounts of data that organizations could actually use not being managed. So with that, we went to some more governments, and then we were working with cities start tweeting about us here. So we're going to governments, we're going to aid organizations, we're going to welfare departments and saying, how much money are you spending every year distributing services, social welfare, and how much money of that is going missing? And they estimate about 30% can go missing, which is insane. And that's through fraud, that's through inefficiencies. But we said using the blockchain is a zero-sum game. We can confirm that these transactions actually happen and eliminate fraud here. So with digital identity as the core, we're building applications on top of these programs. So we're building our enterprise solutions for governments, and we're building consumer applications for people like yourselves who want to make donations or want to send money and so on. We recently had some great news. We were doing a project with a Dutch organization in Tanzania, and we had the first baby in the world ever born on the blockchain. So what does that mean? Basically, we're working with a government body from Holland. We were distributing medical entitlements to pregnant women in Tanzania. The problem is, all the documentation, every time a woman goes for a health visit, every time she gets checked, everything is written in paper. Those paper documents are taken away to a different building. Come back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, the data is absolutely useless. So what we're trying to do here is, you can see that there, SDG 3.2. So if we go back to the big diagram I showed you at the start, Sustainable Development Goal 3.2 is to give everybody equal rights when they're born. So what we're doing here is, you're giving the mother an identity. She has her medical entitlements linked to her identity on the blockchain, but now she's actually managing the data for her child. Not us, not the organization we work with, but you're giving financial and social inclusion straight away. So if you think about that, I personally believe the biggest opportunity for blockchain are people who are not born yet. Okay? So the moment you're born, if you have an identity, all your medical entitlements, you're building a data credit profile, so financial or social exclusion. And it's not just developing economies, it's also developing economies. We're working with countries now to help them deliver welfare entitlements directly to people, so to make sure no money goes missing. The whole healthcare space itself is huge. It's bigger than you probably know. 371 billion. So imagine that, transparency on $370 billion. That's going to improve a lot of people's lives. It's going to have much more money actually getting to the right people. And there's a lot of business opportunities there as well. And this organization we work with, a Dutch organization called Pharma Access. They do amazing work. But from that project, we got some amazing sets of data, completely mind-blowing. So the organization is delivering delivering medical entitlements for 1.2 million women. We had more data on the first 100 women that could tell us how the medical entitlements are being used. So the women went across 3 different visits to the clinic. The first time, there were some discrepancies. The second time, they showed improvement. But by the 3rd visit for these pregnant women to the clinic, we had 100% improvement because we knew exactly what the data was telling us. So the data here was telling us that some of the clinics had ran out of zinc tablets for the pregnant women, and one of the medical devices was actually broken. Now what that meant, the donor had much more traceability. They knew what exact medicine to send and when it was needed. So they're using AI and machine learning going forward, these big sets of data, and then using smart contracts. One of the smart contracts that we put there was when if a woman didn't turn up for a health visit at the clinic, it would trigger an alert. So one of the women didn't turn up for one of the visits at 4 p.m. on a Friday. So the smart contract triggered an alert to the donor told the doctor, and then the doctor told the social worker, who actually went to the mother to give her her medicine. The mother didn't know that the child needed that medicine in the next 10 hours. So it's using the data to be proactive, for predictive analysis instead of reactive. At the same time, using blockchain for transparency. So to me, the blockchain is just one part. It's really just one part. It's a transparency engine. It's a transparency engine that sits beneath and allows for data to sit on top. So when we explain this to our clients, the blockchain will guarantee something from point A to point B. But the data that you're getting on top of that now is going to be super helpful for you to save money, to have better direct impact reporting, but also go back to your donors and say where the money is actually being spent. So we're scaling this to multiple clinics around the world, and we don't charge the NGOs, we don't charge the charities. Our paying customers here are governments, because governments are spending this money anyway. Going, if you have 193 governments around the world spending the money for international aid, welfare, and so on, you can see how blockchain is going to impact millions of people's lives, but save a lot of money as well for taxpayers. Another project we're doing is with United Nations Development Programme, and that kicks off today at 1 p.m. in Serbia. So we built our platform on top of the payment gateway Stripe, and we've integrated it here with Stripe, where the local government here in the city of Niš in Serbia work with UNDP. So they've identified diaspora who have emigrated abroad to Germany, to Spain, to France. And this project is happening in Europe, sending money back to Serbia. Now, if my brother was in Serbia and I'm here, I am not sending him money, I'm sending him value. So what I'm doing is I'm paying his electricity bill, I'm paying for his gas bill, I'm paying for him to go shopping in the supermarket. So I'm topping up his identity. By doing that, we don't touch regulation, we don't touch cash, but we're solving the problems of governments, because now the government has the diaspora. Diaspora is people who have emigrated, sending money back into the country. So that's very, very good for the exchequer. So again, it's these big public-private partnerships, working with the United Nations, working with governments, working with banks, And the blockchain is the piece in the middle that connects everybody, both for social and financial inclusion. That project there, we're scaling that to another 22 countries. We'll be doing some work in the Pacific Islands, in the Pacific Islands near Australia and so on. And if you look at the remittance market is a $600 billion opportunity that everybody said blockchain is going to disrupt. Now, if you think about it, the average fee for remittances is 7.4% globally. On this project, we're bringing those transaction fees below 3%. And that's what the power blockchain can do here. On one side, you have the payments, and the other side, you have the digital identity. So the person receiving remittances in Serbia is building a credit profile. Now that person can receive medical entitlements, health, education, and so on. There's another project, we built this with the Red Cross. So the head of fundraising for the Red Cross, we asked him, I said, if we build enterprise solutions for government, for welfare aid, we want to build a consumer application where I can make a donation, I know exactly where my money goes. So we built this, and this goes live with the Red Cross in 2 weeks' time. We call it Trace Donate. You trace where your money goes. So basically, if you can imagine, I can send money to a group of people. I can actually send money to an individual on the other side of the world. So if you think of that pregnant woman, I can actually send her $10 to buy zinc tablets on behalf of the Red Cross. When she gets that, I get an alert to my email. I get an SMS message to say I know exactly where my money goes. So you're eliminating all this fraud. We've been very lucky to win a lot of awards recently. We won the Dubai Government's Blockchain Company of the Year because we said we are building blockchain to solve these massive social problems. We were lucky enough to win MasterCard's Company of the Year, and it's working on these banking systems that already exist. We're saying we're building blockchain applications for financial inclusion. We're charging governments, but the end users on the enterprise side is going to be people in developing economies. The end users in developing economies and the consumers are going to be in donations, remittances, and so on. And the big award that we won was from Citibank, where Christine Lagarde, director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, gave us the award for fighting corruption, Game Changer of the Year. Because we said we are not building new softwares, we're building applications that sit already on the top of existing systems. So we're not coming in to say to an organisation or government, replace your whole IT system. We're saying no. You already have what's there, you leverage the blockchain, you leverage the world's largest supercomputer, you build applications on top of this, and you integrate with existing systems. That's how blockchain is going to get mass adoption from governments, from consumers, and it has a massive social good. And something I'll finish on this slide here. We've just been announced, well, maybe 2 months ago, as the first blockchain company in the world to get investment from 2 governments. The Government of Ireland and SG Innovate, the investment arm of the Singapore government. So if you think it's difficult talking about blockchain, try and get investment from a government. It takes ages. There's a lot of due diligence. It takes a lot of time. So as I say, just to kind of summarize, we're building applications for governments and the enterprise, building applications for consumers, and then to solve these problems. Any questions, please feel free to come over and speak to me. Happy to answer. Thank you.